Based upon all the records available about Muhammad and his deeds, it is evident that he projected upon his victims exactly what he was intending to do unto them. Will you please elaborate?
Before answering your extremely important question, I would like to take this opportunity to recap and touch base with our listeners. The sole purpose of our series has been and will continue to be to enlighten and educate people, both so-called believers and unbelievers, about the facts and realities of Muhammad and his Quran, to counter all the lies, deceptions and mendacities that fill the airwaves, TV, the newsprint, as well as the political and religious debates. We have so far put up 151 chapters with many more to come, detailing, explaining and referencing many facets of Muhammad, his Quran, Hadiths, as well as Arab and Islamic histories. These are of course based upon our website In the Name of Allah, which contains many more details than we could possibly put up in our videos. Ladies and gentlemen, you have so far gained an enormous amount of information and knowledge regarding these subjects, so much so that I dare say that no one can ever again deceive you. No one can ever pass by you the most perfectly minted counterfeit coin in the darkest of nights without you noticing it. Your support has been outstanding. Your numerous blessings are an inspiration to us, and that which propels us to excel even more. Several of you have spent a lot of time, effort and expense to save our chapters from being arbitrarily terminated and to have them accessible to all others. As far as we are concerned, we shall never let you down, nor shall we ever flag or retreat until our victory is achieved. As to those so-called believers, we have repeatedly explained that you as individuals are not the target of our series, that you are in fact and tragically the first and worst victims of indoctrination by the cult of Muhammad and Islam. On numerous occasions we have put forth our hand in friendship, because only friends would point out to other friends the facts, the truth, as well as warn them of pitfalls and dangers. As you well know by now, we have no hidden agenda, especially since we have never advocated any belief system above another. Muhammad and Islam is our target because it is the only belief system on the face of this beautiful earth that has arrogated only to itself the right to exist. We, as free human beings, shall not allow our descendants, our children, grandchildren and humanity to be enslaved, subjugated or dragged into the abyss of ignorance and tyranny of the dark ages. We shall fight this satanic cult until it is eradicated off the face of the globe. All we have ever requested from you to do throughout our chapters is to allow your minds to open up only for a short period of time to start with, to use your God-given intellect judiciously, to listen carefully to our chapters, to check our references both from the Quran and Hadiths as well as from the Bible, to compare and contrast and digest what you are absorbing, to think, evaluate and reason all by yourselves and then come to your own conclusions. If you find your conclusions incompatible with those that were drilled into your brain from childhood to maturity, so be it. If after all your research, your logic tells you that what had been instilled into your mind is wrong, then it must be wrong. You alone, my brothers and sisters in humanity, are the ones who in the final analysis would either to continue believing in a herd mentality or to soar into the stratosphere of higher knowledge, self-worth and independent intellect. In our democracies and free society, it is entirely up to you what to believe in and how to believe. The choice is in your hands. I shall now share with you, our listeners, many thoughts and statements that I had mentioned before, but may have escaped your attention. That truth is divine and is almost always simple. That because it is divine, it is hence eternal and indestructible. That lies, when repeated enough times, become truths. But the obverse is also true. When facts are repeated again and again, they overcome the lies. That good will always triumph over evil. That facts, when known, cannot be perverted. That the worst nightmare of Muhammad and Islam is knowledge, knowledge and more knowledge. that it is by divine justice that the very hadiths that explain Muhammad's Quran and Sunnah to his followers are the very same that utterly demolish the veracity and alleged divine origin of the Quran. That the same internet that the fundamentalist Mohammedans use to teach their followers how and whom to hate, how to slaughter unarmed civilians, how to bomb restaurants, planes, buses and trains, how to commit suicide bombings, etc., against all so-called unbelievers, the kuffar, be they Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, Jews, Sikhs, Zoroastrians, animists, etc., comprising 80% of humanity, this very same internet will bring about the eradication of the satanic and evil cult of Muhammad and Islam, because it also teaches humanity the facts and truth about it. Before I address the subject of projective identification, I would like to make sure that you are aware that all the information that we have regarding the pagan Arabs, Muhammad's tribe of Quraysh, the Judaized and Christian Arabs, and all the alleged opponents of Muhammad come from one source only, that of the victorious Muhammad and his followers. We have absolutely nothing worthwhile from their victims. Hence, all the items bequeathed to humanity are the one-sided, uncorroborated, totally suspect, and most definitely the perverted versions of the events as recorded by the aggressors. There is not a single record from the victim side that could shed any light upon the realities. I shall now address the question. We have already shown that Muhammad had pathological narcissistic traits. Projective identification is one of them. We all have an image of how we should be. Freud called it the ego ideal. But sometimes we experience emotions and drives or have personal qualities which don't sit well with this idealized construct. Projection is when we attribute to others these unacceptable, discomforting, and ill-fitting feelings and traits that we possess. In this way, we disown these discordant features and secure the right to criticize and chastise others for allegedly having or displaying them. Entire collectives, nations, groups, organizations, firms can also project. Projection is unconscious. People are rarely aware that they are projecting onto others their own ego, dystonic and unpleasant characteristics and feelings. So, instead of denying it, the subject explains unpleasant emotions and unacceptable conduct as reactions to the recipient's behavior. That is, the victim. She made me do it, is the battle cry of projective identification. I shall now list in chronological order these very same traits passed down from Muhammad to his followers through the viruses of his Quran and Hadiths. He accused his own kith and kin, the Quraysh tribe, of oppressing and persecuting him and his followers, when in fact it was he and his followers who were insulting, attacking, degrading, humiliating, and denying the centuries-old religious beliefs of his people unless they accepted his false pretenses to prophethood and his Allah as the one and only God. They did not have him killed because they were not the bloodthirsty and wanton murderers that Muhammad projects as their picture in his Quran. They considered him a harmless but possessed person. They were, of course, in hindsight, utterly and deadly wrong. He had almost all those who criticized him, satirized or opposed him, be they men or women, young or old, free or slave, butchered by his assassins at his explicit orders because he accused them of persecuting him, although not one of them was actually a threat to him. Whenever he had a setback, he picked on the peaceable Judaized or Christian Arabian tribes through his made-to-order alleged divine revelations, accusing them of their intention to betray or kill him. Since the people of the book were largely educated, hard-working, and connected to civilized backgrounds, they were prosperous and wealthy compared to Muhammad in particular and the pagan Arabs in general. He had his eyes fixed upon depriving them of their wealth and acquiring it for himself. Since he was unemployed and most definitely unemployable, he had to resort to the methodology of the criminally minded thug to obtain his goals. He was, to put it mildly, the leader of the first organized crime syndicate in history, preceding the mafia by 1400 years. To give vent to his ambitions and lusts, he had to project upon his intended victims his own criminal agenda. He accused the people of the book of being traitors to his cause, disbelievers in Allah and his messenger, unbelievers since they allegedly associate other deities with Allah, would-be betrayers of Muhammad and Islam, etc., etc.